91% of mothers are currently experiencing mom guilt. Breastfeeding, sleep training, starting salads, wake windows, organizing your house and your home and your baby things in a certain way, getting non-toxic cleaning products, getting non-toxic baby products. It's just like the list goes on, right? And there's also this new trend going around called a high effort mom. It's sort of become this quiet, unsaid competition of who is like the perfect mom and who can do it all. And if you're not doing that, you feel behind. This is the Simple Motherhood podcast, where we're not pretending to have it all figured out. Here we are simplifying things together, growing closer with God, strengthening our relationship with ourselves, with our families, and doing it all without shaming or fear-mongering or judging. I'm literally out of breath from just sitting down. That's how pregnant we are. We are 36 weeks Tuesday, so in 2 days. And I feel like I could be 40 weeks right now. I feel like I can't breathe. The past 2 days, the pressure, the random lightning crotch pain, the everything is just making the days go by really slow. Yeah, anyways, welcome to the very first episode of the Simple Motherhood channel. I'm really excited to be launching this on Mother's Day. It feels just meant to be, and I've been wanting to put a podcast together for probably like 2 years. I want to be your mom friend. I want to go through these things with you guys and learn alongside you and make you feel like you have a community and somebody who knows what it's like and who's on your side and who's rooting for you. We're just figuring it all out together, and I cannot wait to get started with you and become your mom friend. So let's get started. Today, we are talking about the isolation and the pressure of modern day motherhood and what to do about it. So, how do we trust ourselves again? How do we gain confidence in being the mom that we believe in being and who we want to be? Okay, so you're just rolling through your week, right? Breastfeeding, pumping, making food, toddler meltdowns, trying to get the house clean, trying to get dinner ready. And through all of it, you are constantly having this thought in the back of your head, second guessing yourself, because everywhere you look and everywhere you turn and everybody you talk to has an opinion about how you should be doing motherhood. Society, the internet, other moms, it's everywhere. If you're not following the latest trend, you're not doing it the right way, can start to feel like you're already behind somehow. And there's just so much noise, and it's really easy to feel isolated. So that's what we're going to talk about today: the pressure, the isolation, and how to actually start trusting yourself again as a mom. There was a current stat that I found, and that was that 83% of moms are currently consuming momfluencer content. So like an influencer, but for moms. And out of that 83%, 65% of them, of us, felt more insecure after watching it. 65%. And I don't say that to shame anybody, because I also watch those videos and I am falling into the rabbit holes of trying to keep up with everything. But I feel like overall that stat just says a lot to prove that where we are right now and where we're going, especially online, as a generation of mothers, it's not really doing a lot for our mental health. So that is one reason I started this podcast. A lot of the content out there these days is really genuinely helpful. It is. However, I think a lot of it is also built on fear and shame and guilt. And there's always just this subtle message that you're not really doing it, or you're one step behind everybody else. And in this podcast, I want to share something different with you guys. I want to be open with everything. I want to be inclusive of all kinds of motherhood journeys and all sorts of mothering decisions, without shame, without guilt or fear. Just a real place that moms like us are figuring things out together and trying to simplify what I think is one of the best and greatest jobs in the world, which is being a mom. I think every mom has their own idea of what motherhood is supposed to look like. And I've gone through so many versions of myself in just the last couple of years with my almost 2-year-old and being pregnant again, that I feel like I've really started to notice something clearly. And it's not just the physical exhaustion of being a parent, but it's just the mental weight of everything. there's this constant pull, like there's a new way being offered to you every day, and somehow you're supposed to keep up with everything, but also trust your own instincts and your own way of mothering and be confident in that all at the same time. Okay, so there is a brand new national study that just came out a couple weeks ago, like late April, and it stated that 91% of mothers experience mom guilt, with nearly 3/4 worrying they are not doing enough for their children. 91%. So if you've ever felt that way, we are the majority. You are not alone in feeling that way. And there is so much great advice out there, and you do truly need a community and a village to go through like the first year of motherhood, especially just not knowing or experiencing anything before. My challenge was that I could never really feel like I was thinking for myself or making any decisions for myself with my first son because everything was just thrown at me, like from everybody I knew. Breastfeeding, sleep training, starting salads, wake windows, organizing your house and your home and your baby things in a certain way, getting non-toxic cleaning products, getting non-toxic baby products. It's just like the list goes on, right? And there's also this new trend going around called a high effort mom. So I just feel like with a lot of the things online right now, it's sort of become this quiet, unsaid competition of who is like the perfect mom and who can do it all. And if you're not doing that, you feel behind. It all kind of boils down to this. If you do this, you're a bad mom. If you don't do this, you're a bad mom. When you're living in that constant noise, how do you even hear yourself? It's really hard to build your own values and build your own rules as a family and as a mother and continually instill that in your family without letting anything else get in. It's really hard to do that these days. So, what do we actually do about it? And I just want to be honest here. I don't think it's as simple as just logging off or blocking it all out or saying, yeah, we know that. We just do our own thing anyways. Like, you're just thinking too much into it. A lot of us are on social media and we are genuinely trying to learn things and become a better mom. Like, we go on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and we're trying to streamline our processes. We're trying to, find the best options and the hacks and the tips and advice so we don't have to think of it all ourselves. And some of that stuff is really great. But I do think that one of the first things we can do to prevent feeling overwhelmed and potentially not good enough is really limiting our time on social media or making sure it's really intentional. So, for example, I'm only going to look at social media when I wake up for 30 minutes when I drink my coffee, or 30 minutes during nap time, or, in the evening after dinner, after my kids go to bed, or whatever it is. I don't feel like it's good to just go throughout your whole entire day just constantly picking it up and like watching these videos of everybody doing everything perfectly. I don't think that that's really healthy for us. Secondly, I think that we should be pausing before we go on our phones at all and just sitting with our thoughts and making sure that we don't have the solution ourselves. Because I feel like most of the time it might be in there somewhere in your mom brain where you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that I sort of determined that this one thing I would try it this way instead, or this would be important to me. And if you just hop on TikTok right away and consume, 300 videos in 30 minutes, you're probably going to forget what you were going to think of in the first place. Next, we need to be essentially auditing or managing who we are surrounding ourselves with. So that not only means social media, that also means your friends and your family and your acquaintances in real life. And I'm not saying like cut out your family or anything like that, but make sure you're spending your free time with people who refill your cup and make your heart and your soul happy. They fit your morals, whether you are super actively faithful and you like to talk about God in every single conversation that you have with your friends when you have free time, or you want to make sure that you're following people who are uplifting and positive and speak highly of motherhood and not bring it down and kind of just get all stuck in the mud and negative, because those things really do subconsciously affect us all. So just kind of, take account for who you're spending your time around, who your kids are spending their time around, and what any long-term effects of consuming that kind of behavior or content or person long-term could be doing to your mind and your brain and your heart. I also think it's really important to sit down either with yourself or your husband and your partner to make sure that all of your family values have been written out and labeled so you know what they are. Because it's really easy to go online and say this, mom influencer has this idea, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. I'm just going to do that. But you don't really have anything to like compare it to. So I think that's sort of what happens with a lot of us sometimes is we just see all of these really great ideas and these really great parenting styles and tips, and we just want to do this and this and this, and we're kind of cherry picking from all these different things, which can be great, but we also don't have our own, internal values or like rules list, if you will, that we want to make sure we stay on track of and that we've decided as a family, as a wife and a husband, or as a family that we want to stick to. So I think it's really important to sit down with your husband if you haven't done something like that already and just figure out like, okay, what kind of style or what kind of method are we going to follow and write it down so it's easy to just put it on the fridge, some behavior tips that you're going to stay consistent with, some reminders from scripture or something that you can use during challenging times, just something that you guys can all stick to so you don't get pulled into accidentally doing something in a way that you wouldn't be necessarily proud of in the future, or it may not align with what's best for your family. All right, next in how to continue to prevent feeling overwhelmed is really bringing God into every day. And I know that that's easier said than done. And you could just look at some scripture verses or pop open your Bible for 5 minutes. But I know for me, that doesn't always do the trick. You can do that, and that's great. And then 30 minutes later, I'm overwhelmed again. So I think just genuinely continuously practicing certain things can really help sort of bring God into those moments more naturally. Because if you practice them over time, you'll remember, oh, yeah, like, hey, I usually pray in these moments, or I usually turn to a friend or somebody who can help me with my emotions right now. And it's not just this forced thing that doesn't actually integrate into a part of your day. Also, when you're coming up with something that you want to search for or something that you begin to compare yourself to in motherhood or get overwhelmed by, I think it's really helpful to pause and bring it to God first. Ask Him to help you with it before you turn to everybody else and just say, hey, God, I'm really struggling with feeling so overwhelmed right now. I feel like all my friends have it figured out, all their kids are sleeping through the night. They just seem like they're having such an easy time, and I'm really struggling and I'm not feeling good enough. And just pray about it, and it'll really help you not only bring God into every day naturally, but I think that sometimes we forget that, God made us mothers, which is, again, one of the most important jobs in the world. So we can ask for His help. We're supposed to ask for His help. We're not supposed to just do everything alone and figure it out alone. And there's truly so much comfort in, talking to Him and praying with Him or journaling about your struggles and just really inviting God into helping you on your motherhood journey. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. So, right there, the verse says we need to be leaning on not only ourselves, really not at all. So, you need to be talking to God, talking to other people. He built us for community. So to utilize our village and just keep God's word close in those moments that we are making decisions or starting to feel that pull of comparison, it just becomes a lot easier to recognize when something just doesn't fit for our family, and we can let it go to Him and have His help with it. All right. Now I want to talk a little bit about isolation. This is a really common theme in motherhood, but I feel like there's a lot of different ways you can be introduced to isolation or have isolation kind of just smack you across the face in the middle of motherhood and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so alone. What's happening? So I really wanted to talk about this in the first episode because it is really important. It's a big pillar of why I created this podcast. I think, wherever you are in motherhood, it's easy to fall into the trap of isolation or just feeling lonely. And it's really ironic because you're never alone in motherhood. You are literally never alone. So yeah, you can feel so darn lonely. Someone's always touching you, calling you, wanting you, needing you to do something, calling your name, and yet it can still feel like it's one of the loneliest jobs in the world. And I don't think it's because you are physically not alone, but I think isolation can also come from losing a part of yourself and not feeling connected to who you truly are while you are being a mother. So there's this sense of I'm lonely because I'm kind of just like in this shell of, serving my children all the time and meeting their needs, which is great. But, where am I and who am I now? So I was one of the first people in my friend group to get pregnant. They weren't far behind me, but I was the first in my family as well. I'm the oldest girl in my family, and I was the first one to bring a grandchild into the family. So a lot of just newness around there, a lot of, questions that came up for me, a lot of excitement and anxiety, and just like preparing for this baby. But then I feel like after the baby came, it was a lot of like, okay, now, they're here and it's all about the baby. And it just kind of feels like sometimes moms get a little bit forgotten about, maybe after that 6-week postpartum period or even a few weeks, because the baby is just so new and exciting, which is great and beautiful. But I think after that, it can just really start to feel really lonely because nobody knew what I was going through. My mom and my stepmom, my grandma, whatever, they're great moms, but they went through this 30 years ago. So it's much different. And I didn't really feel comfortable going to them about like everyday advice or like, what do I do about this? Or, boobs are leaking, or I can't get out of bed because my back pain is so bad, or what does this mean, or whatever. So I was never actually diagnosed with anything during my pregnancy or postpartum period. However, I feel like I really did struggle with a lot of anxiety and isolation, specifically during the first 6 to 12 months of my son's life. And it did not help that we lived about an hour away from our friends and family. So there wasn't really a lot of people to turn to. We did step out of our comfort zone. My husband and I started to meet people through church and just neighbors and trying to build a community there. But it definitely wasn't the same as having our friends and family nearby and just having that village who we, grew up around and we were super comfortable. We could invite them over in a messy house or ask to do our laundry or anything like that. Naturally, I am a homebody at heart, so I like to be home more. So, I wasn't really thinking anything of it the first 3 to 6 months, kind of staying home, putting the baby first, resting, doing all the good things at home. But then when the 6, 7, 8th month rolled around, I still wasn't really feeling up for doing anything outside of the house. Or if we did have something, I would get really anxious and worked up about it and kind of secretly would hope that it would be canceled. So overall, yeah, I just stopped looking forward to getting out of the house. And then I realized after that time period, like, this isn't normal for me. I really shouldn't be this like anxious and feeling isolated and not willing to leave. And it wasn't just the physical isolation. I felt like emotionally and spiritually disconnected from kind of everything, just with this big shift of having a newborn, and everything I do goes directly to my son. Everything I do matters now. It's just like everything revolves around him. So I think it was a big identity shift as well. And just trying to figure out how to manage my day and get into a routine and like do the things that I once loved doing and now include him in my life too. And I think what eventually pulled me out of this isolation was just starting somewhere. So, like I said, once that 6, 7, 8th month rolled around, I realized that I wasn't really doing much except for like errands or like little play dates or little things with friends, or seeing family. And there's this saying, about working out. I think it is like you just have to do the first 5 minutes. Like you just have to get through the first 5 minutes and then the rest will be a cakewalk. And I really think that's true with doing something hard in parenting as well. Because I really did not want to leave. Like the thought of getting ready and packing the diaper bag and getting in the car and what if this happens and blah, blah, blah. Like it didn't matter once I got there. Like if we had a play date and I was dreading going and I just got ready anyways and we got there, I had so much fun and I regretted not doing it sooner. And it was just so refreshing. So every single time I pushed myself to go, whether it was a play date or the gym or even running an errand, I felt so much better when we were done. And not only that, but also the house and the day had been a little bit more full. If you're a stay-at-home mom like me, you know that the days can feel really long and daunting when it's up to you to entertain your children from, sometimes 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's a really long time. Like, you feel like you've been playing with them for 2 hours and you look at the clock and it's been 2 minutes. So, a small side note, along with just getting out of the house and doing things, is the house also stays clean for longer. You don't have to plan more throughout the day to keep them busy. If you have a little bit of extra money to spare, you can always pick up lunch or a snack on the way to kind of like fill up the mealtime and again, not dirty the house with all those dishes or mess. And by the way, if that resonates with you at all, I did just come out with a guide. It's called the Simple Motherhood Guide, and it has reflections, quizzes, and exercise that's called A Letter to the Old You that can kind of honor and grieve that version of yourself that you might be missing. And you can also, in the guide, take some quizzes and just spend a lot of time reflecting to figure out what hobbies and what interests and what kind of lights the fire in you again. So I'll link that in the show notes, but it's a really fun guide to grab and just have on hand. And I think I'm going to give one Simple Motherhood guide away for free because they are brand new. I just came out with them. So if you are listening and you like this podcast so far, if you could be so kind to leave me a review either on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, and I'm going to pick one person that leaves a review and send you a Simple Motherhood guide for free, shipping and everything. It is a 8.5 by 11 spiral bound 50-page booklet. So again, if you want to leave me a review, I'm going to pick one of you and send you one for free. Okay. My next point on isolation and what we do about it is your community and building your village. So I kind of talked a little bit about this before when we had moved, but I think the most important thing is stop waiting for people to come to you. You have to step out of your comfort zone and introduce yourself to people, find people online, find groups, communities, mom play dates, anything where you can find someone with something in common with you. One of my biggest mistakes is when I have been trying to make new friends over the past couple of years, I felt like I was looking for like the perfect friend and they had to have all of my views in line with them. And if they didn't, well, I wasn't really interested in having a friendship with them because I felt like we weren't going to align everywhere. And that's so silly and not realistic to think because that's not really that possible. I mean, maybe you have a best friend who you have every single thing in line and in agreement with, but I just feel like it doesn't really happen that much. And it's really beneficial to have friends who have things that are not in common with you, or you have areas in your life where you're very different from each other because you can learn a lot from them. You can take advice from different people in your life. And it's not just like you're trying to mirror yourself in another person. Because if you think about it, it's kind of like if you have all these friends who are exactly the same as you, like, what are you going to gain from your friendship, besides solidarity and all the other good things that come along with friendship? But you're really missing that key point of like learning new things and having, strong, inquisitive conversations that can be really beneficial. So, along with community, like, don't write another mom off if you see them feeding their kid goldfish or something that you just are not on the same page about. And I'm not saying goldfish are evil, but that's, a really shallow example of something I feel like is totally like real. Like people are like, oh, you're doing that? Like, I don't want to associate with you. And that's just not good. I don't think we should be doing that. Okay. So my point there is just, don't wait for people to come to you first and don't expect them to be perfect. God chooses people to come into our lives for certain reasons. And I've definitely had a lot of friends where I'm like, wow, I didn't see our friendship going that way, whether it be good or bad, but I definitely learned a lot from it. And I'm grateful that I was introduced to that person in the first place. Also, just like put more time in with the friends that you do have. Drop off a meal for no reason. Text them and tell them that you're thinking about them. Invite them over for dinner. Invite their whole family over for dinner and just do a simple pizza. Like, I feel like a lot of those, traditional hosting activities are like these simple acts of thoughtfulness and grace can just be so forgotten about in today's world because everything is just so transactional. And I know for me, like when a couple of my friends invited my family over for dinner, like with the kids and everything, they invited us over for dinner. It was just so refreshing and so nice to sit down with another family and talk with them and be treated to dinner. And it just really meant a lot. And I feel like I don't know a lot of people who do that anymore. So it was just really nice and refreshing to be asked to do that. All right, next, regarding isolation. And lastly, again, just bringing God into it through your everyday duties and through your everyday thoughts, whether you're feeling alone or not. Not just the big moments, but the simple, ordinary ones too. So, in motherhood, we need to remember that it's not just a role, it's a calling from God, right? So God is trusting you with these children that He's given you. They're not your children, they're God's children that you are taking care of and you are mothering. So it is really important to, remember that God is in this journey with you and you don't have to feel isolated. If you're feeling lonely in those moments, that is really your sign to just pray about it right in the midst of that, not after or the day after. So, those are my tips for feeling overwhelmed in motherhood and feeling isolated, and what we can do about it today, and simply how to bring God into our lives every day. That is the end of our very first episode. But here's what I want to make sure you guys take away from it: the pressure that you may be feeling as a mom is very real, and nothing is wrong with you. And it's not a reflection of how good of a mom you are. The isolation you feel is real, and you are not the only one feeling that way. And we are not meant to figure this out alone, okay? My podcast exists because it's something that I needed 2 years ago and I couldn't find it. I created this to be the friend that I wish that I had back years ago when I was pregnant and newly postpartum with my first son. I want you to feel like you're a part of a community, like I'm learning alongside you and not talking or shoving advice at you. I want you to feel like you are learning more about yourself, like you can grow closer to God in a natural way that works for you. And also, I have to remind you again that I did just come out with the Simple Motherhood Guide that's linked in the show notes on my website. So I am really excited about that. Otherwise, don't forget you can find me on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are watching from. I'll be doing a weekly podcast every Sunday. And then in addition, I do some little shorts and reels and random stuff on TikTok, just like mom advice and stuff that I'm doing to prepare for my next baby because I'm currently 36 weeks pregnant. If you loved this first episode, I would love if you could leave me a review. It would really mean the world to me, not just to have reviews for like the algorithm, but I genuinely want to know what other moms think and if this has been helpful to you. My hope is that every single episode feels like you are sitting with me for a cup of coffee. I don't want to be talking at you and shoving stuff at you. I want it to feel like you're like, oh yeah, I can relate to that. Like I know what that's like. And I don't have it all figured out either. Like I am in the thick of it with you guys. I'm about to pop out this next baby any week now. And I'm sure I'm going to be going through a lot of these things all over again. So I just want to be real and show up and talk about, the real overwhelming, complicated things of motherhood. And we are going to try to simplify it together. So, again, thank you for tuning in to the first episode. Happy Mother's Day, and we'll see you guys next week.